Imagine arriving in chains. Your freedom is gone. You're dragged into a dark, torch-lit cell, and your new life begins with a chilling oath. You vow to be burned, to be bound, to be beaten, and to be killed by the sword. That is the Sacramentum Gladiatorium. You are literally handing over your body and soul to the arena. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the brutal, meticulously organized world of the Roman gladiator school, and we're putting you right in the middle of it. We're gonna strip away the Hollywood myths and look at the gritty, historical reality of what it actually took to forge a person into an absolute superstar of the ancient world.
Part 1. Condemned to the Ludus.
The moment you step foot inside the compound, your past is totally erased. You belong to the arena now. Maybe you're a prisoner of war, a criminal, or even a freeborn volunteer just desperately trying to escape crushing debt. Either way, the law sees you as demonati ad ludum, a slave of the penalty. In Rome's strict social ladder, you've just plummeted to the very bottom. You're classed among the infames, socially marginalized and legally dead, at least until you win your freedom. And winning that freedom? Well, the odds are terrifying. You start at the very bottom as a novitius, a raw recruit locked in shackles. Survive those brutal first days and you become a tiro. They'll take off your chains, sure, but they replace them with heavy tattoos, so you can't just slip away into a crowd. It's only after you survive your first real bloody battles that you finally earn the rank of veteranus.
Part 2. Masters of the Familia.
If you want to survive, you need to quickly figure out who holds your life in their hands. You answer directly to this guy, the Lanista. He's the owner and manager of your gladiator family. Make no mistake, he is a ruthless businessman with absolute legal power over whether you live or die. But here's the catch. To him, you aren't just a slave. You are a massive, walking financial investment. Because you're so valuable, it is 100% in his best financial interest to keep you alive. The Lanista buys you, hires hardened veteran trainers called doctores to shape you up, and negotiates your fight contracts. But he also shells out for top-tier medical care. Actually, the famous ancient physician Galen got his start patching up gladiators in Pergamum, and he drastically cut the death rate at his school. You're also put on a very specific, nutrient-dense diet of barley and beans. Why? To pack on a protective layer of fat over your muscles to shield your major blood vessels from minor cuts. This whole setup didn't just appear overnight. You're stepping into a deeply entrenched, state-sponsored industry. It actually started way back in 264 BC as just a small blood sacrifice at funerals, but over the centuries, it blew up. By the time Emperor Domitian built the Ludus Magnus, this elite premier training camp right next to the Colosseum, it was a highly regulated machine. It would take until AD 404 for these games to permanently be banned. Part 3. Forged by the wooden sword. Okay, let's head out into the dusty training yard. This is where your body gets broken down and entirely rebuilt. Under the extremely intense, scarred gaze of those veteran doctores, your arms are going to burn like never before. They hand you the Ludus. It's a blunt wooden practice sword. But here's the kicker. It's deliberately crafted to be twice as heavy as a real blade. The logic is brutal, but man, it works. You swing that heavy chunk of wood for hours every single day, so that when you finally pick up a real iron sword in the arena, it feels as light as a feather. All day long, the yard just echoes with the heavy thud of wood against wood. You're striking the palaus, a thick wooden post driven straight into the ground. You are out there mastering the dictata, the strict rules of combat. Because gladiator fights, they aren't messy tavern brawls. They are heavily choreographed art forms. You drill specific movements endlessly until they are permanently hardwired into your muscle memory. And these drilled strikes are literally your only defense. You have to master the punctum, a swift horizontal stab that only needs 2 inches of penetration to be lethal. You drill the casim, a brutal overhead chopping motion, and you practice reversing your grip for desperate downward stabs in extreme close quarters combat. You just have to flawlessly execute these moves, totally ignoring your own exhaustion because your life depends on it. Now you might be wondering, do I get to pick my weapons? Nope. Your body type dictates your class. If you're fast and agile, they might make you a Retiarius, fighting virtually unarmored with nothing but a net and a trident. If you're a massive, incredibly strong guy, you're gonna be a Secutor, loaded down with a giant shield and a heavy, smooth helmet. Or maybe you'll be a Thracian, wielding this vicious, angled sword called a Sicca. You are forced into asymmetrical combat, explicitly designed to exploit your specific opponent's weaknesses. Take this classic matchup, for instance, the fisherman versus the pursuer. It is an absolute masterclass in tactical theater. The Rotarius relies entirely on speed and reach, trying to trap the other guy in his net. But the Secutor, he advances like a literal armored tank. His helmet is totally smooth, so the net just slips right off, and the eye holes are incredibly tiny to block the prongs of the trident. This MMA-style clash of totally different weapons and armor is exactly what the Roman crowds were screaming for.
Part 4. The Final Banquet.
But then, the grueling months of training suddenly stop, and a whole new kind of psychological terror sets in. The night before your match, you're led out of the Ludus to the Coena Libra, a massive, lavish public banquet. The citizens of Rome literally come just to gawk at you and place bets on whether you'll live or die. And you're sitting across the table from your brothers in arms. Guys you trained with, bled with, joked with. Guys you might be forced to butcher tomorrow. The ancient writer Cyprian really hit the nail on the head here. He noted that the luxury of this feast is just a cruel joke. You're eating all this rich food, but it probably tastes like ash in your mouth. Your body is just a commodity. You are literally being fattened up for punishment, just so the crowd gets a slightly more spectacular show in the arena.
Part 5. Blood on the Sand.
The day arrives. The gates open. The blinding golden sun hits your eyes, and the roar of 30,000 screaming citizens shakes the ground beneath your feet. You're in the arena. But wait, before the first blow is struck, keep this number in mind. 5,000 sestertius. That's roughly $32,000 today. If you're a top-tier fighter, that's what you're worth. If you die, the sponsor of the games has to pay your lanista that massive replacement fee out of pocket. You are way, way too expensive to just be thrown away in a mindless slaughter. And because of that immense price tag, that Hollywood myth of guaranteed death, it's totally false. In the 1st century AD, you actually had about a 90% chance of walking out of that arena alive. The matches were all about thrilling displays of martial skill, not sheer massacres. Emperors like Augustus even legally banned fights to the death without mercy, specifically to protect these incredibly valuable human investments. You're not even fighting alone out there. Right in the ring with you is the Summa Ludus. Think of him as the senior referee. Usually, he's a heavily scarred, retired veteran armed with a long wooden staff. He proves this isn't a chaotic brawl. It's a highly disciplined duel. He can pause the match if your armor breaks, pry you apart if things get dangerously tangled, and make sure everybody is playing by the rules. But eventually, the fight has to end. You're beaten, your stamina gives out, you're bleeding, and you collapse onto the hot sand. But instead of a fatal blow, the Summa Ludus steps in with his staff and completely halts the match. You drop your shield, you raise your left forefinger high into the air, the universal signal of submission. The fighting stops, and suddenly the roaring amphitheater goes dead silent as everyone holds their breath. Everything you've been through, sacrificing your freedom, enduring the brutal discipline of the lanista, swinging that heavy wooden sword until your hands blistered, it all comes down to this single agonizing second. Will the crowd grant your mercy and let you live to fight another day? Or will they demand your end? After all that meticulous, expensive training, your survival hinges entirely on the unpredictable whim of a mob. So what would you do to ensure their favor? Think about that the next time you sit down to watch modern entertainment. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the history you think you know.